Here's your news for June 13th, 2020. And your headlines for today include: when is Matt Riddle actually debuting for Smackdown revealed? Eric Bischoff shoots on WWE firing Paul Heyman. Expected changes at WWE Backstage following Heyman's exit. Which WWE Raw segment was pulled at the last minute? WWE cancels a major tournament. WWE wrestler being targeted by Russian hackers, and more. We're kicking off today with news from SmackDown as Matt Riddle will debut next week. After weeks of video packages, this week's show had another video for the King of Bros, but this one confirmed that Riddle will be debuting in person on next week's show. It wasn't mentioned whether he'll be in action or who his opponent will be if he is, but we do know that next week's episodes of Raw and SmackDown will actually be filmed this Monday on June 15th. Fans will have to wait to see what Riddle does on his first night on Team Blue, as hopefully the former NXT Tag Team Champion will have just as successful a time on SmackDown as he had during his years on the Gold brand. Speaking of SmackDown, this week's show saw the New Day appear, and whilst the fun-loving tag team is known for their wacky adventures and love of cereal and pancakes, the duo had a very serious moment in the ring during the show. In the ring, Big E and Kofi Kingston took a knee and raised their fist in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and this was pointed out by the WWE on Fox Twitter account. The SmackDown Tag Team Champions also wore armbands featuring the names of people who have tragically died, including Shukri Abdi, Tamla Horsford, and Breonna Taylor, the latter of whom was shot by police while she was in her bed. It was a powerful statement by the usually comical duo, and it just goes to show how important this movement is to the New Day. We've got some more SmackDown news now, as after a lengthy tournament to crown a new Intercontinental Champion, the finals took place between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. After a tournament that saw plenty of controversy when Jeff Hardy was framed for a DUI and Elias was forced out with an injury, the finals this week saw a barn burner of a match, but it was ultimately Styles nailing the phenomenal forearm on Bryan that got him the win and the title. This is Styles' first reign as Intercontinental Champion, and also means that he's one tag team title reign away from the company's Triple Crown, and we'll have to see what former champion Sami Zayn has to say about our phenomenal new champion. From SmackDown to Raw next, as Paul Heyman was removed from his role as the Red Brand's executive director, and one person who knows how that feels is former SmackDown director Eric Bischoff. On his 83 Weeks podcast, Bischoff had plenty of praise for Heyman, saying, "He's got his own thing, you know. Most really creative, highly aggressive people do. Paul was a handful, but in a fun and positive way for me. Not in a negative or challenging way, but in a way that kind of made you better because he made you think." Bischoff added that Heyman wasn't perfect, but because the ECW magnate has been put on such a pedestal by fans and those within the industry, people tend to give him a little more credit than they should. Speaking about Heyman's replacement, Bruce Pritchard, who also replaced Bischoff on SmackDown, Eric said, "I'm going to send Bruce Pritchard a text that says congratulations with a question mark." It seems Bischoff's advice for Paul E is to lay low for a while, and given that Heyman on screen works almost exclusively with Brock Lesnar, fans may have to wait until the Beast emerges to see Heyman again. As you can imagine, Heyman's departure from the executive director role on Raw has had some huge changes backstage. Ringside News is noting that there is a new reporting structure backstage, and now writers will report to different people backstage, namely Dave Kapoor, Ed Koski, Jonathan Backstrom, and Heyman's replacement, Bruce Pritchard. This restructuring also means that some writers will be assigned different storylines, as their source noted that stories were shuffled a bit, meaning what fans see on TV could soon drastically change. That means if you see stories get dropped or take off in a new direction in the next few weeks, now you know why, as these segments could likely be written by someone else who wasn't on the writing team for this angle before. Whilst fans are aware of Heyman's relationship with Brock Lesnar, the ECW magnate was also a supporter of stars including Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, Aleister Black, Cedric Alexander, The Street Profits, and more. Now it's being reported by the Wrestling Observer newsletter that some stars are safe even without Heyman around, whilst others aren't so lucky. They write, "The belief is that McIntyre and the Street Profits are liked by McMahon and are probably safe, although they will be more subject to the whims of booking that may or may not protect them as well. As far as everyone else, it's anyone's guess. McMahon has already lost interest in stars like Cedric Alexander and Ricochet, and hopefully the others who were favorites of Heyman will be more lucky. Everything is likely to change about Raw now that Heyman is out and Bruce Pritchard is in, as although he was able to do a lot of things to make Raw his own brand over the past few months, it's possible a lot of things will be undone by the executive director of both Raw and SmackDown. Back to SmackDown now, and this week's show kicked off with a contract signing between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus that took a strange turn. Making their Backlash match official, Sheamus said he'd only face Hardy this Sunday if Jeff took a urine test, but after, relieving himself, Hardy instead threw the sample all over the Celtic Warrior. Older fans may remember this angle done in 2006 when Shawn Michaels was forced to take a test and instead threw his urine over Mr. McMahon. And hopefully Sheamus will have a very thorough clean before he faces the charismatic Enigma this Sunday at Backlash. One person who isn't booked for the pay-per-view is Liv Morgan, although the former Riot Squad member nearly got a segment on this week's edition of Monday Night Raw. Sportskeeda is reporting that Morgan's segment, which would allow her to further express her personality, was cut by Vince McMahon at the last minute, as the boss is said to have pulled or reordered several Raw segments in recent weeks. This is a blow to Morgan, who was pushed when she returned last year as the jilted lover of Lana, but hasn't been used for quite some time, with her last match taking place over a month ago when she lost to Charlotte Flair on the May 4th episode of Raw. Morgan isn't the only one to lose her spot, as a series of matches between Ricochet and Cedric Alexander taking on Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink never happened, and with Paul Heyman, a known supporter of Morgan, gone from the Red brand and the show undergoing restructuring, we're not quite sure what the future holds for the 26-year-old superstar. Now, we all know that things are strange in WWE to say the least lately, but not everything being reported about the company is entirely true. Despite reports that the company had already taped the post-Backlash editions of Raw and SmackDown, that isn't the case, and instead these shows will be taped this coming Monday, with the following week's programs being taped the day after on June 16th. With that said, the company has been pre-taping several matches lately to be recorded during later broadcasts, including NXT TakeOver's Backlot Brawl, the Edge-Orton match at Backlash, and the finals of the Intercontinental title tournament, which aired this week. Clearly, this is a strange time in WWE, and with so many changes going on behind the scenes, it looks like things won't be going back to normal anytime soon. Speaking of changes, the WWE has had to cancel a lot of big plans in 2020, and that included a tournament that a lot of fans have been asking for. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Live, Bryan Alvarez revealed the next step in the women's revolution when he spoke about this year's Mae Young Classic, as he said, "I believe that the actual idea for this year was a Queen of the Ring tournament, so not a Mae Young Classic, but a Queen of the Ring tournament. I believe what you would have seen this summer is the Queen of the Ring tournament." It wasn't noted whether the planned Queen of the Ring tournament would be open to main roster superstars or if they'd bring people from outside the company, though it's a moot point now because the tournament isn't happening. WWE could always keep the tournament and go back to it when the time is right, but for now, the crowning of a Queen of the Ring is just the latest thing fans have lost out on due to the current ongoing situation. From a queen to an empress next, as Raw Women's Champion Asuka has plenty of fans, but some people tried to find out more about the Japanese superstar. In a tweet, Asuka reported that she'd been the target of hackers, and said the IP address of the hackers had come from Russia and Qatar, though they could be coming from anywhere if they have the right setup. Given how Asuka is very tech-savvy and has her own YouTube channel where she goes into such things, it's unlikely the hackers would get the better of the Empress of Tomorrow. But it just goes to show that everyone, even empresses, need to be careful online. We've got news from The Undertaker next, as fans will remember the dead man agreeing to do StarCast, much to the anger of Vince McMahon. Now fans will get to have a close look at what went down between the two, as Fightful is noting that the next episode of the Last Ride docuseries will include the StarCast drama, and will highlight the strain on the dead man's relationship with Vince McMahon. As if that isn't big enough, All Elite Wrestling will also be mentioned in the upcoming docuseries, and it'll be interesting to see how much the opposition is mentioned when Chapter 4 of The Last Ride airs this Sunday on June 14th, with the final episode airing on June 21st. And we're finishing off this video with more news from The Undertaker, as the former world champion is the definition of a future Hall of Famer. While speaking to TV Insider, the Phenom discussed his inevitable induction, and though he's said he's not going to be inducted anytime soon, he does have an idea of who he wants to induct him in the Hall of Fame. He said, "I have an idea. I'm going to keep it to myself at this point. I don't think I have to make a decision anytime soon. I don't want to give that away because I don't want him to come up with an excuse not to do it." To be chosen by The Undertaker, you've got to be a true legend yourself, and while fans will have plenty of time to speculate who it is, whether it's Kane, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, or maybe Vince McMahon himself, only the Demon of Death Valley knows for sure.